time Brian Epstein had bought me the tape, he was very disillusioned indeed. He'd been taking it all around for a few months and had absolutely no joy. So I listened to it, had a lot of potential, so I got them in for a session. And I remember they were a bit nervous, a little bit wet behind the ears. So I remember saying to them, if there's anything you don't like, don't forget to tell me. And George Harrison looked at me and he said, well, I don't like your tie for a start. Which absolutely... But it was the kind of thing that warmed me to them immediately, really. I mean, they had a tremendous sense of marvelous personality. But it was Paul who originally came up with the idea of Sgt. Pepper. A lot of people think it's a concept album. It actually isn't. The first two tracks certainly do give that impression, the segue from Sgt. Pepper to With a Little Help from My Friends. I always felt that George Harrison would prefer to have more of his own songs on the Beatles' albums. But of course, when you're competing against Lennon and McCartney, your work's cut out for you. Having said that, John and Paul were always very encouraging. And this was actually one of the rather nice things about working with the Beatles. They didn't have any of this ego nonsense that you get with a lot of supergroups.
In the early days, particularly, John and Paul had a very relaxed attitude towards songwriting. For example, Can't Buy Me Love was written in a hotel room. They just sat down and knocked it out together.
They'd stopped writing together quite so much. They'd still contribute to each other's songs. People working out for them is a good example.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start the press conference now. Mr. Hooper and Mr. Martin are extremely tired, and we'll only be asking a few questions now, okay? So thank you very much.
Mr. Martin, were you ever afraid for your life?
Well, the Beatles certainly never took drugs in front of me. I was always vehemently against the drugs scene, particularly the heavier stuff, heroin, LSD. But having said that, when we were in the studios, quite often the lads would nip off to the loo for 10 minutes, smoke a bit of pot, come back wreathed in smiles, there'd be a bit of giggling and horseplay, and then we'd carry on with work. But generally, I tended to turn a blind eye.
Mr. Martin, do you think the release represents a positive shift in attitudes towards the West, or is it just a publicity stunt?
Well, I never really understood all the criticisms against Ringo's drumming. As far as I was concerned, he was an inventive and powerful player. You only have to listen to some tracks like, I don't know, Tomorrow Never Knows, Hey Jude, Strawberry Fields, I could go on. Absolute tour de force.
Mr. Hooper, now that you're free, do you view your having been taken hostage as more of a political or a personal issue?
Well, the feedback at the beginning of just go with it. You can always go with it, and then if it's no good, at the beginning of the song, we can cut it off later. Yes, the Hooper was one of my favourite people, actually, in the circumstances. I mean, as long as John was happy with her, I was happy with her.